Okay. Hi, I'm Lexi. So we talked about the Cold War this week, as we're all aware now. And so after World War II, sorry, my talking points are right here. Anyway, so after World War II, the U.S. saw itself as one of the big powerhouses in the world. We were just much better off economically, in comparison to other countries that were involved in the war. And the USSR also saw themselves as a powerhouse, and there was a lot of tension between our two countries, especially after the atomic bombs, and that's kind of what led to the Cold War and like an arms race. And essentially, both countries were just trying to scare each other and seem more daunting. Yeah. And so the current event that I have chosen to focus on is kind of the USA's and power global position of power, and kind of respect, I guess ranking for lack of a better word, and compared to the rest of the world. So over the last like 4 years especially, the US has definitely become a laughingstock to the rest of the world. Trump has done a lot of things to make the US look bad. He's defended rapists and racists, the action of his supporters pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord, like his relationship with dictators like Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. Like I could go on for a while, but that's not the point. I mean, yeah. But more recently, with the pandemic going on, with the Black Lives Matter movement, he has shown a lack of empathy, support, control, and just like general respect. So the first article I found is from Foreign Policy, and it's called "China and the United States Are in a Race to Lose Power." And basically, the article just talks about how the US and China are both actively doing things that lower their power ranking amongst other countries, or compared to other countries. And when I saw the subtitle for this article, it is a new Cold War is starting and neither side seems interested in winning. And when I saw this, I thought like, wow, this is perfect for what we're talking about. I thought this was interesting because back in the 1950s when the Cold War started, both sides, the US and the USSR, they were actively trying to like scare, kind of like almost impress the other side. And this was seen via military expansion. And this is seen on page 18 of our textbook that we read, with the essay or article titled "The President's Advisors Urge Military Expansion," and then the expansion of communism as well. Yeah. And so now there's still a desire for power in the world, as the article talks about. The article from Foreign Policy talks about. But both countries are like saying they want to like be this great, respectful, renowned country. But the way they're acting is just the complete opposite of that. And then another article I found, I kind of took two articles and meshed them together to illustrate my point. But one from NPR just says, it's how the US ranks on COVID-19 deaths per capita and by case count. And this just reinforces that idea that the US is not doing a lot to make itself a powerhouse now. It just shows how poorly the US government has handled the pandemic. It just used a lot of statistics to show how the number of COVID cases in the US is just insanely high. The article does know that it's difficult to compare countries due to different sizes, but with that being said, or different sizes, populations, etc. But with that being said, the US has the 8th highest number of deaths per 100,000 people, and 1,000 people have been dying every day since, like, on average, since the US first, or since the virus first came to the States. Sorry. And then another article I found just from CNBC is just titled "Europeans' Trust in Trump's America Has Gone After Pandemic." And it was just a poll done in Europe that shows how Europeans don't trust Americans after what's been going on. So how is the political climate similar, such different at the beginning of the Cold War versus now? Unfortunately, I would say there are a lot of similarities. So Trump's 2016 slogan of "Make America Great Again," in ways it's what I assume kind of like a callback to the 20th century and how it's romanticized, and that idea of, good old American, like the American dream, and that idea. And then also the anti-communism and anti-socialism rhetoric that was very prominent after World War II is also quite prominent. Oh, and this is seen in page 16. Senator Joseph McCarthy charges the Democrats are soft on communism. That's a really good example of the rhetoric back then. And now, as we see in the election with candidates like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, I know a lot was said about them being Democratic socialists and how, you know, that's so bad for America and how it's borderline communism and how, you know, the US will be in shambles if we elect these people. The differences I would say now is that the technology and the communication abilities now make it possible to see kind of both sides of the story. And I think back in the 50s, it was a lot easier to be swayed by propaganda that the government pushes out about like communism and how it's here in the States and how we need to fight it, how we need to fight in other countries to stop it from taking over the world, that kind of thing. Yeah, now I think we have a little more ability to see all the perspectives if we choose to. And then the question I would pose for you guys is what other examples have you seen in the last couple of years that show a decline in the USA's global power in relation to other countries?